Hi, I'm Mona.
I'm Sophie Hannah.
And I'm Nushi Rose. So welcome to episode 69 of Ethnically Speaking, the show where we discuss issues affecting the UK's highly melanated communities, from current affairs to pop culture and everything in between. So we always keep it 100, and today we're talking about the rise of the 4-day working week and annual leave, taking holiday. How much should you have and when should you take it? So I don't know if you guys saw the story that broke just recently in the New York Times. A guy in Taiwan decided to take advantage of his country's marriage holiday policy. So in Taiwan, if you get married, you get 8 days of paid holiday. And so this man decided to get married 4 times and divorce 3 to the same women in the period of just a few weeks. Now, while this is a rather extreme measure, I think all of us can empathize with that urge to get away and desperation to just have a bit more time away from work. So, first of all, I want to know, have either of you had gone to any extreme lengths to try and maximize your holiday allowance or to avoid work? Should we start thinking about having a 4-day working week, given the desperate times we're in and the fact people are going to these lengths in the first place? Or should we actually be thinking about having unlimited leave and letting people take as much holiday as they want?
Oh, well, I've never done anything crazy for a holiday allowance, to be honest. No, I haven't done anything crazy. But I used to work for the NHS, which really has great annual leave because 3 days annual leave will equal a week because of the shift pattern. So that was one of the first jobs that I had out of university. And it was just, I always had annual leave. I had buckets to spare. I'd go away with friends for like a week and then I'd just take off another week. And that would only be 6 days. So it'd be like, and I'll have a week to kind of settle back into life before I went into work. And then when I moved there and went to the charity sector, man, it was a rough lesson because I was going through my annual leave, like, going through it. Then towards the end of the year, I had none. And it was going to work out that I'd be the only person in over Christmas because I hadn't saved anything. And it was a tough wake-up call. So I had to learn to get better with annual leave and get off that wonderful high horse that I had in the NHS, which was just heaven, to be honest. So, in terms of unlimited annual leave, I'm thinking about that. I originally thought no, because people are going to take advantage, but studies show that it's actually the opposite. People actually feel guilty to take unlimited annual leave and what other people are going to think of them, and they don't know how much is too much. I wouldn't have that problem. I would take a clean 40, 50 days annual leave if I had unlimited. I'd take off like a couple of days every month. I'd be like, I'm going on a 3-week holiday. Like, I would be like, if it's there, I will use it. I'm not going to feel guilty to be at various events and this and that and whatever. So for me, but it might not be good for every organisation because it really depends. When you work in the NHS, you can't give that out because people need to cover shift patterns. So it very much depends on where it is that you're working. But in terms of a 4-day working week, I'm all for it if I can get the same money because I used to work in a job where Fridays were half days, so we'd finish at midday and pretty much no one even came into the office. They would just work from home from like 9 till 12. And then it gave me a jump on the rest of the weekend. I could run all my errands, do food shopping, do this, do that, and really prepare for the weekend and ease into it. So I think there's something definitely about having that extra day that makes a difference because right now I go to church 1 day a week on the weekends and it takes up my entire day, so I only really get 1 day, and even then I have to do all the other stuff that I have going on, so it can get the weekend can go pretty quickly. And in the society now where we now live, where your workplaces pretty much expect you to bleed for them and give you everything that you have, it's a very different climate. You're not finishing necessarily at 5. The weekend maybe isn't as respected as it once was. So I think it is important to kind of give that extra day so people really have time to rest and recuperate and come back to work. And the studies show that people come back and give their best. There's less sick leave. There's all these various things because people are actually allowed to have the rest that they need to work as hard as they can. And last thing, I think it isn't work-life balance. It's life-work balance. We make out like life needs to balance with our work. No, like work needs to balance with our life. It should be our life-work balance. Living life should be the most important thing, but we don't really class it that way because work has such a big effect on our life, I guess.
Yeah, I think that the mentality that is being perpetuated right now around work is really, really dangerous for people. And I think that people who come out of education and go straight into work, because I remember for me, there actually isn't much time delegated to making them understand how annual leave works, because it's a shock to the system. If you've just come from school or uni, for example, and you have so much holidays, that's all you're used to. And think about it, you spent so much percent of your life at school, you've just been privileged with that. To come out and not automatically have half term, Easter break, another half term, summer holidays, Christmas holidays, you don't actually know how it works. So in your induction period, when someone's telling you this is how many days annual leave you're entitled to, you let Sarah know in HR, you book your days in, etc., etc., they can look and be like, yeah, because that was me. And I didn't really understand how it worked. And then all I know now is I have a couple of days or however long off, and I'm having someone force feed me a schedule because they need it to make sense with other people who booked their time off. So now I'm being delegated time off that might not necessarily work for my schedule, but I just feel like I have to take it because I didn't know when I could say it. That's not a nice feeling. They need to be able to educate people more who are just transitioning into employment, who aren't used to that annual leave. Because I've been in it for how long and I still don't understand annual leave. And it's probably because I work in a school. So I have that holidays where it's sweet as pie. So Sophie, when you were telling me about the NHS, I was like, like I'm still living life. But if I was to come out of it, I'd find myself in a spot of difficulty because I'm not sure how it works. And I think that people feeling bad for taking time off work is really sad, because I'm all about working smart, not working hard. And that doesn't mean that I'm a lazy person. I just think you could run around in a circle, blowing hot air, typing away at your computer, and you can look like you're working the hardest in your office or really grinding for that project, but you might not be. So working smart isn't taking a lazy way out of it. It's genuinely working smart instead of working hard. So people have this idea that you have to eat, breathe, poop, sleep the company. And if you don't run yourself ragged, then you're not the best employee or you're not worthy to go up the food ranks. And it doesn't work like that. And people need to be able to feel free, because, yeah, if you feel comfortable and you feel well rested, then you're going to be able to give the best of yourself to your company that you're working for, because you feel appreciated. And it just links into the whole well-being, feeling appreciated at work, feeling comfortable. You would have happy workers who would give you a happy company, if that makes sense. And because of the way that a lot of us have been working from home, a lot of companies have now given the opportunity for people to work from home. I have never worked from home a day in my life. And I never thought that I was eligible to go for jobs that could enable me to work from home. It's only because of the current situation that we're in. And I'm thinking, thank heavens for that. Because now, if there's any jobs that I can take remote and work leave, I'm going to take it, because I like working from home. I like what it does for me. So if we're able to see that people working in a relaxed, and I'm not the only one who said it, loads of people have said, even if it was a thing where they worked 2 days at home, the rest in the office, they'd be more than happy to do so, because it just gives you a bit more freedom. And the more comfortable you are is the best version of yourself that work is going to get.
So I definitely agree with that completely, because obviously there's so many studies that show that the more time you have away from the office, the more productive you are. And so in the Scandinavian countries, for example, where often they have almost half the hours in their working week as the UK does, and they're so much more productive according to tons of studies. And similar studies also show that if you the people that get promoted the most or are likely to have recommendations are also those that take their full annual leave in the US anyway, rather than those that take less. And so which completely supports what you're saying. But on the other hand, there's this thing where if I had unlimited annual leave, I would 100% take it. I'm like Sophie, I would never be you wouldn't see me. Like, I would just not be there. And I mean, the example is right now, like I'm currently in Costa Rica paying to clean public toilets so that I can experience something new, because I think like getting away, whatever you have to do it, if it's possible, I think, that's just how I'm kind of wired. I would 100% take it. But there's all these other studies that also show that the people that kind of behave in that way in a working environment, you forget that regardless there will always be people that don't take the leave, that are too afraid to, or for whatever reason. And for those people, they end up taking on like the majority of the workload and the burden of the work, because they're always in the office when the rest of the team goes away. And so it actually creates like a culture of resentment and a culture of inequality in terms of the types of work people are doing, the amount of work people are doing, and actually isn't healthy in that way, which I found quite interesting.
I think it's quite an interesting one when you start to compare statistics and you start to compare who's like more productive and who's productive, because generally it does depend on individual differences. Because I didn't actually answer the question. If I was given unlimited annual leave, of course I would take it too, like who wouldn't? But there are some people who would obviously abuse it, and that would make it bad for the rest of us. But like, okay, no one's going to have it, it's just about that, having that good balance. But perpetuating this idea that you basically live to work, and there's this energy and aura that's curated in the workplace where people are shamed. I've been in certain circumstances where I might have been ill, genuinely ill, and I feel a bit of shade coming from my colleagues. And I'm like, bruh, are you going to pay for my medical expenses? I don't understand why you're so pressed about me being ill. Like, because I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm in a career where by me not going in or me not being able to fulfill my duties, it makes my other colleagues' workload harder. I mean, in general, yes, we all impact each other, but in the same breath, not to the extent that you can't empathize or sympathize with somebody else or have some sort of resentment. It's none of your business do you get what I mean? Like, to perpetuate something like that and make somebody feel ashamed to the point where they might not take annual leave that they're entitled to because they're fearful of what people are going to think of them. Are we in a playground? Is this in year 6? Like, what are we even saying? And this has such a detrimental effect to people's mental health, because if you're not switching off and if you're not taking that time that you need for yourself in any job, because I've always said, however you make your coins, it's not easy. It's not easy to stack that paper. So any job you work in, some will be a little bit more nicer than others in terms of the perks, but work is work at the end of the day. And I think if you feel that you're not able to take that time off because it reflects on your work ethic, or you're not seen as the desirable worker, or you think it might impact you in terms of career progression, I think it's really bad.
I think what's really interesting is that the companies or organizations that tend to offer unlimited annual leave are probably like big tech companies. I guess would you call tech creative? I guess it's kind of technical, but it's very creative in the things that they have to do. You have to be business minded, but they really have to think of new ideas and think outside of the box. And I saw one company was saying, which was really interesting, is like, we want our colleagues to be innovative and creative, and creativity is shown to come when people are outside and doing other things and are able to interact with the world. That's how people pick up different things that make them, I thought of an idea, or I saw something that wants to feed into my work. So I think it's really interesting that these tech companies are doing it. And to be honest, people who work in tech, Silicon Valley, whatever, people are dying to get those jobs. People want to work in these environments, and tech has really, I guess, changed the game in terms of work culture, in terms of, the different ways to work, and apart from the 9 to 5 in the office. And because people see that, and they're really trying to build on a culture that people want to be a part of, I think it means that people don't take advantage, is what they're basically saying when it comes to unlimited annual leave, because people want to be there. And I think that's the emphasis we need to start having now in workplaces, that is going to really help people have that work-life balance, is to have a culture that people want to be a part of. There was a job that I had, and I loved the staff who I worked with, loved the staff. And I took like no sick leave. Like, I wasn't sick that much, but you just wanted to be in the office. You wanted to spend time. It was a good vibe. People worked together. It was very collaborative. And those are the things that enable people to want to be in the office. It's like, we want to maybe say, oh, you can take more annual leave or whatever, to make it seem as though that's the thing that's going to make people rested. And it is, but culture is such a big part of any workplace. And I think a lot of workplaces are missing something. And I feel like the pandemic has really given people the chance to, as you were saying, Mona, to reset and to think about, actually, if my staff, like banks now are asking people, I think it was NatWest was asking staff, do they want to come back? And there's like 13,000 staff that don't want to come back, or are going to have like a kind of flexible working, some homework, some in the office work. Because like, well, if people can be productive, why don't we do these things that are going to make our workers happier? It's a no-brainer. Obviously, happier workers means more productivity. Obviously, happier workers make more productive workers, makes better work. You're hitting more sales targets. But we're obsessed with this bums on seats and everyone needs to be killing themselves. And as you said, burnout is not sexy and it's not helping anybody.
Agreed. When I worked for my first makeup counter, I won't name any names. I worked for my first makeup counter and they were all like sales driven anyway. I was working like a dog, go out, go grab customers, go this, go that. It was very, very tiring. And I worked hard. When I shifted to another company, they actually worked on a 4-day. 4 days was considered a full-time rota. So you had 4 days on, 3 days off. But if you wanted to do overtime and like have 5 days, you could. But I stuck to the 4-day, 3-day. It suited me for uni and stuff. I was the top seller. Can't even talk. I was at the top. I was bringing in about 2,000. I could do it in my sleep. And it wasn't just about the 4-day working pattern. The environment was beautiful. The staff room was open. You had couches, you had blankets, you could take a nap. I didn't even feel like I was working. And like you said, Sophie, with the team, I had such a beautiful relationship with all of my colleagues. So the environment that we was creating, I didn't even feel like I was at work. So I felt like they could get the best version of me, and I was able to push myself and work harder because I just liked what I did. I liked where I was. I liked the environment. I liked the shift pattern. If you have some sort of resentment towards work, of course it's going to show. And of course it's not going to be as productive. And like I said, going back to that mentality of thinking that you have to have people slaving away and being a pen pusher and really showing how hard they're working, it's going to have an impact on the energy that you have in your workplace. And that could spiral up into many things, like having very high staff turnover, not being able to have the longevity of staff staying. It has multiple implications. And then even more worrying aside from the company, because at the end of the day, not all companies, but majority of companies seem to only see their workers as a number. So you're giving your all to this company. That's not your dad's company. You're not going to end up being CEO 9 times out of 10. So you're working like a slave for this. And where are you going for this company? You know, if you don't really feel appreciated, you're just working yourself to the bone. It's not really lucrative for you, is it? So 4-day working week, I'm here for it. But like you said, Sophie, only if I get paid. Just
for the 5. Yes, girl,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because that could definitely go over some people's heads.
I also think, like, with the 4-day working week, do you guys think that it's gendered? Because there's all this stuff that shows that the people that really like are having to work part-time or give up work completely because of childcare, something like 89% or 90% of those people in the UK are women anyway. And so the 4-day working week, in my mind, is also a way to kind of rectify those kind of gender inequalities in the workplace, and the fact that with childcare, for example, of course, as we know, it's usually the woman that will give up her livelihood if she has that option, if there is like a breadwinner or something that means she can do that. And so it's also, I guess there's wider implications as well outside of the workplace, which relate to kind of like leveling the playing field, I guess, in that kind of way as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely think that it will help, hopefully, even the scale, not completely, but I think it will definitely help women with the 4-day working week because of the reasons that you said. Whether it's fair or not, it's just the reality that women take on more of the childcare job burden, whatever it is that you want to call it. So I think that will definitely help, and because childcare is expensive, that will help as well. But I guess we have to think about the flip side of how it affects companies, because I think is it Spain that is trialing, or is it Italy? I think it might be Italy, who are trialing the 4-day working week, and they're trying to roll out a program, but the government has to borrow a lot of money to kind of make up the shortfall for some companies that won't be open, or that need to hire additional staff to make sure that they can do rota so that people are working 4 days instead of 5. And they're saying that some companies, it's going to actually cost them money to see if this thing is going to happen. So do you think that it's worth it if it's going to come at a cost?
I definitely think that is something that we shouldn't shy away from, because the way that my mind thinks, right, is I'll take my role in school. There's loads of students who have EHCP plans, different professionals working on how they access the curriculum, because mainstream education is something that they all cannot access for various reasons. So we're trying to adopt an approach where it's not a one size fits all, and instead, how can we make the material accessible to the student? And I take that same mentality onto the workplace. It's not a one size fits all. Some people will prefer to work a 5-day weekend. Some people are quite nocturnal. Some people work best at night. Some people work best in the afternoon. Some people have children. When we come to work, we all come from different walks of life. We all have different responsibilities. We all have different priorities. If you're able to fit into people's schedule, it makes it a lot less stressful. And I think that I completely understand it's going to be trial and error, and it's going to be something that it's going to peak here, it's going to peak here, it's going to peak here, it's going to peak here. But it's definitely something that we need to try, because my mum always says to try and fail is not a disgrace. But I think once you get it going, I definitely can see the positives in this. Isn't it Spain that has like a nap time routine? Don't they close and then they have like a nap and then people go back? And I know so
there's siestas.
That's it. Siesta. I know so many people have said, oh, if that was me, I would take a nap and I would never go back. Yeah, but if you grew up in that culture and you got used to it, it's something that just becomes normal. You have your little rest and you go back in. And, I just think that is something. I'm a big champion of this, if you can't say. I'm really trying to push this like I'm pushing it to my mom. Like, let's do this. If it's something that can be trialed, I'm all for it. Let's try it.
So I saw on Twitter, and I don't know if this was a real thing, but let's pretend that it is. But it was an organization apparently after the pandemic offered their company, you can either go back and have people can get a 20% pay rise, or you can get a 4-day working week. And the majority of people went for the 4-day working week. I don't know, what do you guys go for?
I'd have to do a pros and cons list. I'm a list kind of gal, I'd have to do a pros and cons list. If that 4-day week was a lucrative opportunity for me, and I felt like I wasn't going to be lazy and I was going to be able to optimize my time appropriately, then I would go for that. However, if that 20% pay rise was going to get me closer to my financial goals, I'd take that one. So I genuinely have to do a pros and cons list. I'll get back to you next week on that, Sophie.
I would definitely take the money. I think because, the last 6 months have shown me that when I have a lot, in fact, the last year and a half, I've had a lot of time, as we all have. And I don't think I've necessarily achieved huge amounts in terms of, given like that extent of time that it's been, of being able to do anything you want within your own home, of course. But like in my mind, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to start a side hustle, I'm going to write a novel, I'm going to do all these different things. And of course, for a few weeks, I have sort of dabbled in these different things, but nothing's really stuck. And so I think like in my mind, I'd be like, well, if I had this like 3-day weekend, I'd either go on holiday every weekend, which in reality, of course, would never happen. The only other people that are going to be free are your colleagues. So even if you're not in the office, like if you want to hang out with someone, it's probably going to be the same people anyway. So that doesn't sound that appealing at this moment in time, but that is just given the time that we're in, I think, also. However, a 20% pay rise, I just think that would be wonderful. Like, because it would mean that, first of all, like you're saying, Mona, you get closer to your financial goals. Plus, the office would be mostly empty on those days, so you could kind of mess around a bit anyway. Not that that's obviously the incentive, but I think I would love that. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's why I said it depends on how you would delegate your time, because I know so many people who have come out of this pandemic and they have made money, honey. Their eye has been on the prize. Their side hustles, their business opportunities, their baking ventures, it's just been skyrocketing. Like some people have been making money. So it enables people to spend less time chasing someone else's dream and pushing paper for another company, and actually having that time to invest in yourself. Because when you think about coming from work, you are so tired. to be able to give that time for self-care, self-reflection, give that time to yourself to be a better person, whether that's educating yourself, getting closer to your spirituality, all them types of things. You spend so much time at work. When you come home, you don't even have time for yourself. So if taking that 4-day working week would enable you to optimize your time and actually become lucrative in yourself and see, I really like knitting, but I've never really had the opportunity to turn it into a business. If you're somebody who's able to do that, why the hell not? But in the same breath, we're not all cut from the same cloth. So if taking that 20% rise brought you to your financial goals, then yeah, 100% take it. But I'm just so here for the fact that the time that we've spent at home has just opened our minds as to how we can make money in different ways.
Do you know what? I agree with you, and I would also challenge that. Okay. In the sense that
I feel like this is our relationship, Sophie. I love it.
I'm telling you. There's two sides to that coin. There's people, like you said, who have gone into the pandemic and come out in the best shape of their life, physically, the best mental space, the best spiritual space, the best financial space. And then there's a group of people who feel guilty in terms of what Nushi was saying is like, what did I do? There are people who started a business and have become like million. And I think it's also down to the way that we look at work and the way that we push this idea of, I should be always being productive. I should always be productive. We went through a pandemic, but if I haven't come out making money and reaching my weight goals, then there is a problem because it's just like we were in a traumatic life event that happened the entire world over. We have no idea how this is going to affect us in the long term, but there is this sense of what have you been doing with your time? And also, I have a friend who is very, very successful financially. She's very successful. She's also just a really great person, really, really someone who really empowers people and just really, she's really here for women and talking to women about, reaching their goals and this, that, and whatever. And she is an entrepreneur. So she works as a consultant, but she also is an entrepreneur. And her and I were talking, and she was talking, I was saying to her, I'm thinking about maybe doing a side hustle, seeing what else I'm interested in, this, that, and the other. And she was like, that's cool if you want to do it. But she was like, there's also no shame in being someone that wants to punch the clock. Because she was like, not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Not everyone is going to want to be the CEO. Some people are happy to work for somebody else's dream and, work as an accountant in somebody else's firm. And I think now we're getting to a place where if you want to be someone that wants to clock in and, you're happy to work for a company, it's kind of like you should be working for yourself. You should be doing this. What? And I've heard it. I'm just like, if everyone was an entrepreneur, no one would be successful because you need people who want to come to work and do the work and go home and be like, this is what I want to do with my life, or I want to progress in this company, or I want to move to another company. I don't need to be the head of the bank. So I think now we need to get to a place in society where we're saying there are various different avenues of work and they're all valid. It's not just about the side hustle and working yourself to death outside of your work hours. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. And I agree with what you're saying. I think just to kind of like tidy up what I was saying, I think it's nice that the fact that we've been given an opportunity where having a side hustle isn't something that people should be ashamed of. And it's actually the first time that we're seeing side hustles, like, for example, being a baker is actually could potentially bring more profit than being like an accountant, for example, So no, I don't think that we should go too far in looking down or poking your nose at other people, because people love to do that. People just flip-flop from one to the other. It's just nice to open people's eyes and show them there's different avenues and different opportunities to how you can like work and make some money.
Yeah, I also agree with that. I think that people are now, I think this whole period has kind of opened people's eyes to the fact that it is possible to make your side hustle your main thing that you do, rather than something that is impossible and unattainable, because we are now seeing these success stories from people we know or like somebody knows, and supporting those businesses and everything. I think that is one good thing that's come from it, even if it hasn't happened for me, which is actually kind of our minds being open to the fact that we can one day be in charge of our own annual leave.
Yeah, do you know what? I think that's true. Do you know what? I think I would love to be in charge of my own annual leave, and I'll probably just add on that. Like, I don't have anybody. Like, I'm thinking about things that I want to do on the side in order to like hit my financial goals and what those are going to be. I'm thinking about that definitely. But also, my mum owns her own business. My dad owns his own business like some years ago, and for me, I'm under no illusion how much work that is. Like the way that I saw my mum work herself to the bone for this company. When it's you, everything falls on your shoulders. And most businesses lose money in the first few years and stuff like that. So I think don't knock the hustle, but don't beautify the hustle so that people don't understand what it is to actually be successful in this, because it takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication. And I think when people just feel like I'm going to start a side hustle and then it's like, no, chances are it could be a lot of work, and you have to be ready for everything to fall on your plate, because that is where it lands when it's your own business.
And it might not be for you. It might not be your thing. Just because you see it, a couple of people doing it, like you said, beautifying the story, might not be for you. And that's absolutely okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you for watching and listening to Ethnically Speaking. If you want a recap of everything we've discussed today, please head over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES069. But also, we want to hear what you have to say. Do you have a side hustle that you're doing at the moment and you are trying to give yourself unlimited holiday to break away from the chains of the office? Or do you think the 4-day working week is the answer to all of these issues that we've discussed? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're watching on YouTube, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'll be back soon, but until then, please don't forget to wash your hands, wear your mask, keep your distance, and stay safe.